Hello there and welcome to my arty corner here on YouTube. My name's Angela and I'm an artist amongst other things, and I particularly enjoy drawing. I haven't got my teeth in right. Well, I have, because they're permanent teeth, but you know, it's Monday, what can I say? I enjoy drawing amongst other things, cute and whimsical characters and stylized flowers, as well as intricate patterns and things that are abstract as well. So if you're new here, I'd like to thank you for joining me for the first time. And if you're a returning visitor, you're most welcome to return. And if you enjoy what you see, please click the subscribe button. It's completely free to do that. It doesn't cost you a penny, despite that word subscribe. It just means that you're following the channel. And if you enjoy the videos, any of them that you see, please give a thumbs up. It means the world to me, as do all the lovely comments and everything else. So, oh, and thank you so much for everything like that as well. So thank you. That's that out of the way. So in front of you, in front of me, on my desk, under the camera, you can see I've got a piece of paper that has been coloured with distress ink. This feels like the all media paper from Sea White, so it's not excessively thick, but it's lovely and sunny out. It is a bit, well, it's warm indoors because sun, heat, I'm upstairs, but I'm coping. And if there's a bit of background noise from the fan I've got on, I do apologise. There shouldn't be, but I need to be comfortable. And I'm having a break from inking in templates for the Fanciful Birds colouring book that I need to get done as soon as. And so I thought it'd be quite nice to draw a bird image with you, or start to draw one, because I think somebody did ask me about drawing birds. That's my phone pinging now. Happy days. That's all I'm going to say. So I seem to remember somebody asking for that a little while back. So I thought, okay, today seems to be the day. I'm in bird mode, so let's do that. So first job, as always, I like to put a border in around on the, around the outside edge of my paper. I'm using this ruler that I found in my stash. I actually have a lot less art materials here today. As if you saw my last video, you'd know that I visited a friend I haven't seen for a number of years. They've returned to the UK, and I just felt the need to help them along with various things by gifting them some art materials to encourage them to be a bit creative with the time they have. I'm not getting into any more details than that, and I'm looking forward to see what they create and their journey with that as well. And so I took that plunge, and some watercolours and coloured pencils and pastels and all sorts of things went there, as well as, a collection of pens from my stash, because I do buy pens in bulk. So it works out cheaper for me because I get through them like nobody's business, and brushes from my stash, because I buy brushes and I hardly ever use them, so things like that. So I'm going to look forward to what they do. Their art is definitely not going to be anything like mine, which is perfectly fine, because we're all different, aren't we? And what I'm doing here is I'm creating a kind of horseshoe shape, or a letter U that has its top bending in, because I quite fancy having some flowers and leaves here with the bird framed, perhaps we can have a branch coming out of one of these as a kind of perch for the bird. So I'm just popping this in pencil for the moment. There's going to be quite a bit of pencil sketching out here, so I'm going to do it fairly lightly. I'm just checking that you can see what I'm doing. I think you can. I'll just perhaps try to make the screen the screen I'm looking at that little bit bigger, so I can see what's going on here. I can hope. Yeah, you can just about make that out. And then I want to draw a bird or maybe two on here. Now, birds can have simple, complex shapes. I particularly would like one that perhaps has wings to one side. So I'm looking for some inspiration, and for that kind of just the arrangement of things, and then I'll be fine. I'll be good to go. So I've got here, I want a head. So I've got the head here, and it is quite big. I can adjust it. Then the body is going to be a kind of, I want a kick up shape at the end for the bottom. I may have overdrawn it, but I'm drawing in pencil, and pencil's easy to rub out. So this is like a giant, sort of like paisley, isn't it? You know, the shape of a paisley in the paisley pattern. So that'll be nice. And I'm going to have the bird looking this way, which will be fun. And I think the wing is going to start where the head ends, because I find this is the easiest way. If you've got patterns underneath the head or around the neck, they can disappear under the wing instead of reappearing on the other side. And I'm all about, you know, when you start making things very stylized and very simple, it's all about, really is about simplifying it. So I've put another U shape here. I can make it deeper or shallower as I wish, and then I'm going to round the top and create the rest of the wing like that. So that essentially is my wing shape, and I'm good to go now. I think I could adjust where that what do you call it is, branch. Yeah, I've got an eraser here, so rather than the kneadable eraser, I'm using a plastic eraser that doesn't produce dust, just lumps, which will be fine. So let me have a look. I want some legs. Legs are easy. Feet, hands, you know, toes, feet, fingers. Not so easy. So this isn't a real bird, so I can just give it some legs that go like this. And perhaps the bottom of these legs is then hidden by some foliage or some, you know, part of a flower maybe. So I'm getting the branch in there for that to sit upon-ish, and we'll be good to go in a mo. Start to ink things in perhaps. Okay, I'm going to just adjust the shape of this wing because it's a bit strange at the top. It's a bit sharp. Want it a bit shallower. So that's better. And I'll just clear up some of my lines there so I can see what I'm doing. And then I'm just going to draw in levels where I want feathers to be within. So let's have 3. And I may not put feathers in the top. I may leave that just as it is, or perhaps with a wibbly line. We'll decide that afterwards. Okay, with the bird, okay, I think I want to do something that will give a pattern for the eyes. So let's pop the eye in. I like to put 2 circles and have the central one as a nice big cute pupil. You know, big eyes, they're cute, they're whimsical, and we like cute and whimsy. Well, I do. And then as I've got this lovely shape here, I'm going to keep this shape. I like that shape around the head like that. And perhaps give this perhaps a stripe or a couple of stripes around the neck. But I did say I wanted to do something here. Perhaps I'll have something like this, so it's almost like it's got hair, bless it. But perhaps I'll have, we're having another paisley shape in there, aren't we? Paisley shapes everywhere. So I quite like that, and I can add to that. We'll do something to its breast. Perhaps, do I want a breast? No, I think I'll just do patterns there. And the last thing then is to do the tail. So for the tail, I'm going to carry this line up, and then, well, there's 2 ways. I could have the tail going up, or I could have the tail appearing out of here, possibly. I'm not very good at this one. This is where references come in darn useful. But I think what I'll do is I'll stick with my original plan, because going this way I'm going to have the tail sticking into flowers and things. If I have the tail perhaps curving up like this, then that's quite nice because it mimics the shape of the bird as well, and of the horseshoe shape. And I'm just going to finish the top off for now with that, but we can also get that there. So that's my bird. It's not quite central, but I'm not worried. It's fine. So the next thing I want to do is I want to position things like leaves and flowers. So I'm just going to draw in circles where I think I might like some flowers, perhaps here, perhaps a small one there, and some leaves coming off, and perhaps leaves here on that side maybe, and then we can have some lovely big flowers at the base perhaps. And they don't have to be rounded, they can be different kinds of flowers here. So perhaps I'd like some that are almost cup shaped, perhaps some different shapes of leaves, so more rounded leaves, perhaps another one that's a bit more cup shaped here, perhaps hiding behind a leaf. And then perhaps another leaf there. I'll put lines in them just to show that they're leaves. And then we can have some more flowers, perhaps spreading off up this way, and then here as well, perhaps some flowers here, and here just to hide where that stem is. And we'll just see how it all goes. And there could be completely different flowers at the top. We could have, you know, big ones again, because it's not real. These aren't, you know, can have different flowers on a tree. I know that with fruit trees, I'm not sure if they can do it with roses and other bushes and things like that, but I know that two different fruits, or lots of different fruits or different varieties of the same fruit, can be grown on the same stem. So you can have an apple tree that perhaps has 2 or 3 different varieties. You graft branches into the tree, something like that. And you can get, and I just think that's just brilliant. So let me just have a look. And then the rest, I'm just going to pop some in just to fill that in. And of course these sections I'm going to have perhaps some fronds of leaves growing down into the corners here and so on. And that's my rough sketch. Ever wanted to know how I do a colouring book page? It's like this, rough sketches, then I start to ink it in. And but for colouring books, my sketches are twice this size. This is about A5. So for colouring books, they're A4, so I can get a lot more detail and so on in. But with these, I can draw a lot more details. I can add a lot more details and line and pattern. So let's start with this bird, and I think I'm going to use an 03 pen and an 01 pen for much of this, I think. Just get a piece of paper here. I did have some paper lurking, got a piece here. So this is the 03. I've got an 05, which actually that's not too much thicker. I do have an 08, which is a lot thicker and most probably just a tad too thick, and an 01, which is really fine. So I think I'm going to go for the 03 and the 05. There we go. If in doubt, always check. But I also did bring out a flexible nib pen. This is a brush sign pen, the pigment version. It's a Pentel pen, and a white gel pen just in case I need it. Not for corrections, but for you know, if I want to, when I've finished it, if I want to add details. I'm not going to finish this in one video. You do know that. You do, don't you? You do know. this is a lot, this is a number of videos jobby, especially if I'm going to add colour then. Right, let me put my 08 out the way. All right, let's start with the bird. Now, I would advise putting paper under your hand or wearing a cotton glove or some such thing. I'm going to spread the graphite around a bit. Oh, hang on, I've got paper. What am I on about? It just helps to keep the paper clean, and I've got something on the end of this one. Is that gone now? It has. And helps to stop smudging as well of the ink when it's still wet. So let's pop the beak in first. And then I'm going to just pop the eye in. And where I put that little highlight in, I'm not actually going to draw all around the circle. I'm going to leave a little wedge out, like a little highlight. Like that. I'm then going to outline. I'm going to outline, not all the sections, but I will just outline the head. And perhaps carry on underneath the body of the bird. And if you get a bit seasick as you watch me twist and turn the paper, I'm going to apologise for that, but I'm not going to stop doing it because this is how I make sure that I draw lines under my control. Because I am hoping that once I finish this, I might be able to use it for something, who knows. So, and I do intend to finish this one. I'm enjoying drawing birds. So the next thing I want to do is to start to add detail to the wing. And I haven't drawn everything in that I want to go there. But let's start with this top area, and I think I'm going to just draw it in like this. And then I'm going to use the 03. Get the lid on. To just perhaps give a bit of a frilly feathery edge there. So rather than drawing in individual feathers, I'm just going to draw in these sections. You know, sort of like that suggestion that there's very fine feathers here. And I could as well just perhaps add some lines and dots fading up towards the top, which again will just give that hint, and that works for me. Okay, so for the next layer I'm just going to put the outside bits in, and yeah, I've bumped it up a little bit, that's fine. And what I'm going to do next is I am going to separate this into sections, because I do want feathers that look almost like they might be equally distant. And now I've got a choice to make, and I think for these I'm going to make them have not a very rounded tip, but some like a rounded V shape rather than a complete U. Now I'll come back afterwards and I'm going to add some detail to this. So these next ones are going to be a little bit different, and I'll wait until I get to the top to add the other thick line, because how do I want to do that? Just thinking, how do I want to do that? Yeah, I'm going to start the other side actually to add this layer of feathers. So I'm going to start here, and then I'm going to make this is like a letter J or a letter L, almost like a lowercase L. And again, I'm going to do them like this. So I'm starting to change the shapes of my feathers just a little bit. And I'm not doing a very good job here, but we'll get the idea. I think it'll be fine, the grand scheme of things. Remember that piece of paper I was resting my hand on? Yeah, it's to one side of me. So I will just go back with the 08. And then this is the one where I'm going to use the 08 for all of these, because these are the longer feathers that you have on the tips of birds' wings, and they tend to be kind of wider almost, so, but mine will fall as they intend, you know, as they will. Like that will do. That's nice. That looks okay. And then I can pop in the ring there. Now for the tail feathers, I'm going to do something that's quite similar, I think. We'll start with this edge that suggests there might be other feathers there. That one's a bit more wobbly than perhaps I wanted. And then perhaps I'll start to pop some lines in here, so I can pop in my feathers this way, and then I am going to draw the edges of the feathers again here, and then I'm going to make these ones a little bit more rounded. And I didn't use my thicker pen for the outline of these, so I'm going to go over just the outer parts and perhaps the end here carefully, so I don't overly thicken the line, but enough that it matches, so we've got a strong outline all the way around the bird here. Okay, next job, put the lid on that. I'm going to draw in the pattern around the bird's eye, or the start of it. And then I'm going to add the bit underneath. And rather than going to a point, I've got it so that we've got the lines don't meet here, there's an open bit. I just think that feels a bit more natural. I'm going to add that line in, and I'm also going to add this one and this one. So there's my bird, kind of done. Right, I said I wanted to add some detail to the feathers and pattern down here, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my 01, which is that one, and I'm going to start with these bottom wing feathers, and I am going to do this quite simply. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. I'm drawing a line inside each of these that is just above the bottom edge of each feather, and then it keeps to roughly the same width until it gets to the end, and I'm trying to make it that little bit wider there. So we've got opportunity then for colour or pattern within. And I like that a lot. And I'm going to do the same on this tier of wings as well. There's no need for them to be identical. This is you know, more whimsical, more stylized bird than a study of a real bird. And I'm using these spaces to add details and patterns, or spaces for details and patterns or colour. That's a later point. So what I'm doing with these is I am drawing within a kind of aura line, to use Zentangle terms. So there we are, that's lovely. So there's that. Okay, tail feathers. I am going to add some bands to add colour or pattern. So these got leaves on the brain. These feathers will be different in some ways to these, but That's not a problem, I don't think. And here I'm going to create an inner aura. Now the space in this line isn't very big, so if I'm going to add colour to this, I'm not entirely sure whether I'd be able to do it with alcohol markers. I probably would if I dig out some that have got brush tips. I'm going to fill in that tiny space there, because that was bugging me. Okie doke, so I can see I've got all of these spots here from the background in the chest of this bird, and I just think that using those to help to get some kind of a pattern going, although maybe not outlining those shapes because that would be just perhaps a bit silly. But it's doable, but I'm going to draw spots on this bird's chest or body, whatever you wish to call it. Because I do like spots are fun to add colour to, but they're also good for other purposes as well, like playing around with space and so on, though I don't think I want a bird that looks like it's got a bad case of pustular acne or has got, you know, sort of like craters in it. That would be not good, so we're going to stick with these as if they're just flat, and then perhaps colour. I say perhaps colour, it's going to happen, isn't it? I've overspilled here just a little bit with my pen, which is a shame. But it is what it is, and I'll work with it. And there we've got the pattern going under the wings. There's a bit of a gap here. So it pays to step back and go, right, okay. And the other thing I'd like to do is I think I want to put a fine line around each of these sections just to break that down that little bit more. I think that'll be fine. And then in this section, I think I'm going to put some squares, because nothing screams whimsy more than sort of like a checkered pattern, just there. So that's my bird done. Okay, let's do some feathers. Let's do some flowers underneath. That's an 03. I just use the 01 for all of that. So I'm reserving the use of the 05 just for the outline of the bird. For everything else, I'm going to do this in the 03 and the 01. So I'm going to start with just a couple of flowers here. So I'm working my way round by drawing what looks like a spoke of a wheel in. In my case, I'm working clockwise here. So I'm drawing the line in, and I'm coming back and filling the gap between them with what looks like the top of a heart. It's one of my favourite kinds of flowers to use. Now here I could split this in two. It wouldn't be out of place considering that the petals at the top here do look a little bit smaller. So that's my first one. Let's draw another one in. Again, I'll put the centre in. I'll have details to these with the 01 when I get the 01 pen to hand. That one's much wider than the first one, it's fine. In nature, things like petals, they might look to be, might appear to be identical on first sight, but when you look closely at them, they're not. And there is that one. That petal could have been done as two, and perhaps I'll just sneak that in, and although they're not the same shape, that shape on the edge just makes you think that they are. And then what I can do is I'm going to add my bird's legs in, like so. And I might even make my bird's legs stripy so they stand out a little bit. So that's the start of this one. And I've got all of the rest to do, so I'll come back with ideas for flowers and leaves and other things, I think, in the next video. Perhaps I'll just do a couple more flowers here, just to finish some bits off. I've got a little bit of time. So this is a break from digital art, because I'm inking my templates in not with a pen like this, I'm doing it digitally, so that if I have any little overspills like up here, I can erase them. I have my digital brush pens set up so they have a similar kind of look and way of working as these do. So if you look closely, they're not perfectly straight edges on these fine liners. It depends on the paper you're drawing on, how absorbent or not it is, how rough the surface is and not. So I don't like pens that are too perfect in line. So I've set mine up so they have this little bit of a variation. Okay, so let's have a couple of leaves here, I think. So I'm going to make these two leaves kind of sort of like bottom end of a heart, I suppose. And then we'll add another flower here. And this one doesn't have to be the same as the other. We can have it in a different kind of flower. Perhaps here I'm going to pop in 5 little balls there, and then it's around these I'm going to pop in some heart-shaped petals, and I'm going to leave a gap between each petal as well, like so and so, and I just think that will be quite nice. And then that's the end of my branch. We've got these others going here, but what I can do is add some leaves in there. Should be quite nice. I also think, even though the leaves should be growing in that kind of direction, I think we'll put a leaf here to disguise some of that branch, and perhaps another one that goes behind the bird. And then I can add the central veins in of these perhaps. So that leaf would come down around there. So I've got to remember that and pay attention to that when I come to add some colour or pattern or texture to these leaves now. I could want to put another leaf in here or another one down here, but I'm going to wait until I've drawn all of this in and make my mind up that way. I don't know at the moment. Part of me wants to have some leaves that trail down, but I don't know. Because if I start to do it now, I know that I'll end up with things that perhaps don't make sense, or that it's going to be awkward to stick to the idea of having this U-shaped frame almost around the bird. And this is where adding shadow lines comes in, because I was able to do that to the other side of the leaf here, so that'll work. And on this one I'm just going to put these lines on the other side of the leaf, so this side is more in shadow. This one I'm going to say is more in shadow because it's underneath the bird, and that's fine. This side, I think this one would be more in shadow. Bearing in mind with me, in my head, light always comes from the top left of the image. It doesn't have to, it can come from any direction you want, but I always go with top left because I don't really have to think too hard then. It's automatic where I put things. But try to explain. as long as you're consistent, then the light direction makes sense in your drawing. Okay, so I've got that there. The other sides of these leaves do look a bit bare, so I think I might just drop in some veins that are perhaps further apart, and that suggests there's more light there, or they're not as dark. So then I've got these leaves here in between the petals, so I'm going to put just a central vein in with those. I'm not going to try to add any others, and that'll be fine there then. So that is as far as, well, I say as far as I'm going to get. I keep saying that. Let's have a look at how we can do something to add interest to these flowers, because they do look a bit on the bare side. And I think the simplest things I'm going to do is I'm going to add stamen in. In this case, I'm going to put a black spot on the end, but it may be that as I add colour to this, I might decide that I want to add perhaps a gold dot there with gold ink or a gold jelly roll, something like that. And of course, if I don't make the dot a weird size, then that ink will cover it neatly. I'm not quite sure whether I like that kind of effect, but I do like this because it adds some density of ink around the central part as well, so that you get that feeling that this central part is above the petals, that the petals are attached somewhere underneath it. And that helps to bring some volume into this. And speaking of volume, I'm going to go back to my 03 pen, and I'm going to start adding some thickness to some of these lines. Just some weight is the term, I suppose, line weight, just to start to add some volume or dimension to these, the illusion of. Again, I'm working with the idea of light above and to the left, so I'm putting shadows kind of according to that. With the centre, I've decided to put the shadow to the top and the right, because then that creates almost like a washer where you've got that hole in the middle. With the leaves, I am going to just thicken the line to the bottom of each one and left, like so. All right, and the same over here. Oops. Well, the fact I'm doing this now that I've finished drawing them is no great problem going forward, because I'll do exactly the same with any others I have. So with the petals, I am going to look at the left and the bottom of the outside of each petal. I'm not going to worry too much about where they overlap. So to the left and bottom. Just adding some weight just to suggest some shadow there, that light's not getting past there as much. So I hope you've enjoyed this, if you stuck with me to this far. I know it's not a finished piece, but you know, it takes a while to do things. And it can be very deceiving, I think, when you see videos where people are working. I don't mean deceiving in a bad way, but when sections are sped up, or when you know, there's a cutaway and you come back and things are done. It's hard to judge how long it's going to take for something to be done. So far this has taken me, 39 minutes 40 minutes coming up in a few seconds, and I spent a good couple or few minutes talking, quickly sketching out where I want things to go, and then inking in as what the bird and the flowers has taken me this, most of the time. There may be more ink patterns and things I want to add later on, but for now I've got the bones of that bird. And I always look at things like this and think, oh, what am I thinking? I'm partway through. And there's always comes a point in time in the art you do where you go, oh, this is awful. And it's that discipline or that sheer stubbornness that you learn. I'm going to push through this and I'm going to see where it goes. Because nearly every single time it works out in the end. Maybe not perfectly, but it works out to be good enough. And you learn in the process. It's about building that confidence in yourself. And I am at that point where I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, oh, what was I thinking? I've got this weird bird sat on a weird little bit of flowers with, I've got more detail in the flowers than I have on the bird, and then I've got all these pencil lines, but it comes together eventually. Trust me, it does. And I just think that it's a good thing to see, how it happens. I've got a little bit of an icky bit up here. I'm not going to worry about that. My mind is saying, Angela, why didn't you draw this on white? You could correct that. I'm going, yes, but when it comes to adding colour, if I colour the backgrounds. So it may just be something that I have to live with, or I find a way of disguising it. But thank you for joining me. Otherwise I'll witter on all day and I need to get back to do some more inking in while this is processing, uploading and what have you. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope that what I've said makes sense, that you're able to follow if you wish, because please do follow along. This is a design you can have a go at yourself. And don't be afraid to stop or to slow down the video and have a closer look. Best if you play it on a big screen rather than your phone. And add as much or as little detail as you want, change it as you will. But this is how I draw birds. Well, some birds. Admittedly, I haven't started with a really simple one. But step by step, you can do it. And I'd love to see what you produce. So until the next video, videos may be sporadic for the next week because I've got to get the book done. But it's sort of lunchtime. Don't feel like I want to eat, so I thought I'd do this instead. All right, so take care, look after yourselves, and most importantly of all, find time to be creative. Ta-ta for now. Bye. Hoil.